I'll create a module for the testimonials and I will call that module the reviews module. Since testimonials are actually exclusively positive customer reviews or customer stories. This reviews module will follow the same structure as the newsletter subscribers module. I'll start by modeling the database entity, followed by seeding some dummy data. So I created a record review inheriting from auditable entity. I made these things nullable so you can, depending on your layout, you can play around with that. The author is an owned type. This means it's not getting its own table, but it's going to be translated into columns. So it's going to be author underscore user ID, author underscore name, and so on. I created these fields mainly for representation. So those will likely, when the user is authenticated, will likely just copy over the user's info at that time. Or when a user chooses to remain anonymous or just use a made-up name, like a display name, a username, then they can just do that as well. And I created another owned type entity, which is gonna give more info about, is the review placed on a product, on a course, or maybe just on your service in general, or on your just a general website review. It's all possible. And I just cut this auditable entity into its own file. Let's create a ReviewsDbContext inheriting from dbContext. And install Entity Framework. Let's see. Constructor with a base. dbContext options. And we pass in the name options. And now we need to configure these own types. To configure, the review owns one author and the review entity owns one entity. And lastly, I'll add the dbset reviews, which will add the table of reviews to the database. And I always like to add an interface, which I don't think in this setup is that useful, but I do it anyway. I moved that interface to its own file. What is left to do now is to add the dbContext to the extensions method and to create some dummy data and seed that into the database. And then we can do the migrations, which will then make sure the seeded dummy data is included in this new table. I'm just going to copy over the NuGet packages installed in the newsletters database and add them to the reviews project file. So then in the extension method, I added a static method that adds the ReviewsDbContext. And to see data, you can simply say model builder.entity of review has data and then pass in the data. And then I copied over the README file from the newsletters. To do that, of course, I need to have a reference at least to that database context. So I'll include it while I'm here. Let's see, add ReviewsDbContext builder.configuration and then it's going to suggest to reference the project. Okay, and now I should be able to run that. Okay, I had to alter the seed data, cut out those authors, move those to a separate method, which then first calls the owns1 on author and then seeds the data. So these are all authors, but they need the primary key of the review. So I made those fixed 61, 62, 63. Another thing to note is these need to be anonymous types and not the author type. And then you see those same 61, 62, 63 IDs here. And I added a created add to not default to the minimum date time. And then I call these methods. Let's have a look at the initial migration. So we've got the reviews table, and then you see those underscores for the owned entities, the owned types, excuse me, author user ID, and then you see entity type, entity slug, and so on. And then the seed data looks good. So then all I have to do is update, hopefully, and everything went fine. Okay, I'll just comment this code out because I don't need it anymore for now. Next up is the business logic to fetch the dummy reviews from the database. So I'll create a reviews.features class library with a static class extensions and then the extension method, which will be reviews. I'll copy over MediatR, Mapster and Fluent Validation to then have the configurations of Fluent Validation and MediatR set. I added the feature folder for get testimonials with a query of testimonials, and I'm just implementing the MediatR setup just like that. Probably need a constructor, private read, I reviews DbContext context. Let's see if it can. Yep, reference it. Hop, hop, hop. Good to go. And all it should do is return await dbcontext.reviews and then where review.score equals 5 to list async, and then we need a return type of numerable review, and of course I'll have to map that to a DTO, response DTO, cancellation token, and I have to add review. Let's see, here as well. Review. That's good. Okay, so I created the reviews.shared class library, added one class review response DTO with the sub DTOs. And now I should be able to use that Mapster project to type, and let's see, review response, reference project, and then response. And let's give that a go. To give that a go, of course, we'll need an API project. But first, let me add the request. Get testimonials and testimonials request. Just not gonna contain anything. The other record. That's so we can use that in the front end as well. And I'm quickly going to, not that it will do anything, but maybe for the future, do it like that. So now I'll set the API endpoint up to provide the data on an HTTP GET request. Okay, that's set up. We're going to rename that to extensions. I copied over the map endpoints method and we'll only need a get for now, but we'll still need to resolve the framework reference. So let's copy that over. Framework reference. Okay, like that, so we can then access this endpoint builder. API routes we'll have to make. Sender comes from MediatR. Let's see if we can. Just do it. Yup. I'll quickly make those API routes and the shared project so the front end can use it too. Const string views, name of reviews, just like that. Reference, oh no, it referenced newsletter subscribers. We need reviews, okay. Then this one needs the features reference. The features reference. Come on, get reviews. Ah yeah, let's get testimonials. Okay. Let's try that out in Swagger. Then we first need to add these projects in here. Let's see, whoop, whoop. It's gonna be reviews features. And reviews API. No, not. It's gonna be the endpoints. Review. Let's run that. And then we get the nice reviews endpoint. Don't crash, don't crash. Perfect. Let's see, did everything get mapped correctly? Author name looks good. Entity is null, that's okay. Yep, looks good. And what's left to do is to build the front-end components to consume the HTTP response and display those nicely. Let's create a Razor class library. Razor, to select it here. Razor class library reviews.shared.spa. And I'm gonna clean it out. Don't think I need anything. Oops. Let's maybe quickly add an order by statement. Order by descending. So we'll want the newest testimonials first. And I'll add one component with an on init async. Yeah, I'll have to add the HTTP client and the state provider. Okay, review state is just gonna have review response. I'm gonna call it testimonials. Add a reference. And then the HTTP client is gonna get the init method and the get method. Okay, I did make a few mistakes. It's gonna be testimonials. Testimonials. Okay, then that should be good. Quickly gonna go here, make that nullable. Okay. Fix the issue in the API. Testimonials, okay. And then I can use that client in the component by my setup isn't great. Let's see, reviews, HTTP client, and it's gonna call it like that. Await HTTP client.init. And then after that, we should be able to access the testimonials from the state. But now the question is, how much of the styling am I going to take with me to the module? Let's see. So I'm going to take the entire card, which is actually already way too much. Let's see, wait, let's wrap that. If, let's see, HTTP, yeah, I need that state now. It's inject. Reviews, state, call it state. State dot testimonials count is greater than 0, and then a for each state dot testimonial, and I copy that. Okay, so then we just replace the dummy content with the content from the database. Oops, but I want to wrap this in an if. Testimonial.author equal null, like that, and then should be good to go. At author dot title, For loop, come on. Let's see. Dot score. And I think start at 1. Oh yeah. Let's just do it like that. Now I have a problem. I need to be able, so either I take that as well, the entire row with all of the columns, or I only return the list of testimonials. And I forgot one thing, that is the extensions. Where I need to register configuration, come on, and then services.add scoped. We've got the, let's do the reviews state and the reviews HTTP client. Let's see about this one. Can I just do it? Come on. Then I have to add that to the program CS. Similarly as I did with the newsletters. Okay, and lastly, I'll have to copy this line over to the pre-rendered server because it's going to do the HTTP call on the index page. And then I see I made one mistake in here, at least one mistake. I'll call this title instead of .image URL, and that should be better. So then those first three are the ones from the database, since we filter on where the score is 5. But you see, yeah, can't really control the layout that well. Can't make them like that. And let's have a look at the page source. Those database data seems to be in the page source thanks to the pre-rendering, so that's nice. The message doesn't seem to be there. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, message. So now that's there. And actually, I could have had an H3, I think. Class card title, add testimonial dot title. Ooh, that's a bit large. H5. It's better. So now you could go for the real bare bone component, so just a functional component that only fetches that data over HTTP, then does an event callback to communicate that data back to the parent component. You could almost call the API yourself then. A bit pointless. So I took the entire row out with the column, and I'm gonna rename this component to cards row. I'm going to extract the card to another component. Is that gonna be a review card or testimonial card? Might be just review card, doesn't really matter here. And let's have that card. Then a parameter, which will be the review response. Let's call it review get set, and then everything in here should be review. Okay, like that. And then in here I'm going to do review card. Review should then be at testimonial. Whoops. Like that. Then you see those seeded cards. Those cards would see the data in the testimonials section. You could even make a component of the entire section, but I'll leave that up to you. If you're always going to reuse, or always going to show the testimonials or reviews in a similar section, then you could do that. And lastly, if you really want the implementation project to decide the styling, or what you could do, let's try it, is have that functional component get testimonials. Is that, let's just call it layout. No, let's just call it like that. Let's copy over this. Yeah, then we need the, then we need these. And now you could say parameter render fragment child content and set. That's what you could do, I think. And I copy over this if statement and the for each. Yeah, I was gonna say child content, but then you'd kinda need to pass the testimonial, which is maybe possible if you make it like that. View response. Oh yeah, that's maybe the most reusable way. So I use the get testimonials component, and then the child content is the actual card, and then I can access the data that I passed through the child content, so the testimonial, using that context parameter. That's actually pretty cool. So what do we have then? Yeah, I should probably just copy this. And then copy that, and then replace all of the review words with context. Ooh, that's actually pretty powerful. Let's give that a go. Yeah, I forgot the column. I added the column. Ooh, yeah, that's good. So one is from the cards row, and the bottom one is really nice, actually. So I learned something new as well. I had seen it before, but I never tried this with this context. Really, really cool. With this approach, I would, however, move this entire section maybe to a component in the implementation project. I would maybe add sections and then say component testimonials section, and then move that all over. Testimonial section. Well, I need to import. Not using brand.spa.shared sections, and then I can copy the entire section over, and I'm gonna undo that row. Very, very, very cool. And let's rerun it. And then now that is cleaned up in here. And then we should just see the entire thingy. So I'm going to, I think, leave out this cards row and a review card. I can delete those, since we want to keep these modules as reusable as possible. Okay, I definitely learned a few things today. The own types, I had never done it before, and to migrate those was a bit different. And that child content context was also a new trick I have now on my tool belt. I hope you learned something as well. If you did, please leave a like. Make sure to subscribe, because there will be so much more to learn in this video series. I'll be leaving the code on my Patreon, so make sure to check that out. See you in the next video.